What's going on, guys? Sean here. I've got the new Knife Center exclusive. This is going to be smooth G10. You can see it's completely smooth. There's no peel ply to it. And this is the best part. This is the reason why I bought it. It's got the CPM Cruwear. It's an excellent steel, man. You know, I feel like the reason why these things aren't selling out is, one, people don't understand how kick-ass Cruwear is. And at the same time, man, you know, this smooth G10 kind of leaves a little bit more to be desired. If you look close, you can't really see the weave or texture of the G10. Not like you could see on the Shaman. On the Shaman, you could definitely see the kind of G10 pattern. You can hear the sound of it too. You can hear the sound of this one. I mean, it's not completely like super smooth or anything, but it just looks really boring, you know. It doesn't help that the PM2 has this really blocky chamfer to it. You know, they only do like a small chamfer on there. You see what I'm talking about? I mean, you have to get in direct sunlight to see that weave. That's what I'm talking about. Some people are thinking like, oh, is he talking about the peel ply? No, like G10 has this like weave to it because it's a layer of fiberglass, a layer of epoxy over and over again. It's basically a lot like micarta, except they use really thin fiberglass sheets instead of like a textile fabric, like canvas or linens and stuff like that. But by buffing the handle scales, you're going to be able to see this beautiful weave a lot better, versus when you're just kind of in the dark, you can't really see it, and it looks like fucking Zytel. It looks really boring. So, I mean, the steel is definitely worth it, and these are still available right now on Knife Center, and they're selling them for $155, which is actually a killer deal if you think about it, because you're getting Cruwear. Some people are kind of pissed off saying that it's kind of a cost-saving thing to not do the peel ply. And the thing about the peel ply is, man, it just looks cooler. You know, it's got this kind of hash weave pattern on there, you know, with the peel ply versus, you know, the smooth stuff. I don't know, you know, I think that if they're going to go smooth like this, it needs to be buffed out. So the next time you see this, we're going to go ahead and we're going to buff this out, because that just looks boring. You know, it almost looks like Zytel. So I think that's kind of the reason why these things aren't taking off and why they're not being sold. But for those of us that are steel junkies and like to actually use our knives, that's cool for us, because that means these are available right now as of this video for $155, free shipping. So if I were you, I would jump on this like a beast and ask questions later. I know there's been a lot of people in the forums and stuff asking, hey, how good is Cruwear? How good is Cruwear? How does it compare? Just take my word for it. Buy this knife in the Cruwear. The Cruwear is going to make you really, really, really happy. And we'll go into the details in another video, but the Cruwear steel is going to make you extremely happy. You're going to love Cruwear. If you like steels like M4, 4V, PD1, all those steels, you're really going to like Cruwear. If you like 3V, you're going to like Cruwear better, especially on a folding knife. So interesting, yeah. Don't miss out. You know, once these things are sold, I mean, they're gone, man. So just take my advice, get this knife. And as far as what I'm going to do with these scales, you know, I don't got a problem with smooth G10. I've been really enjoying it on my Spyderco Shaman. You know, it's nice. I like it. It's just it looks really boring on this knife. And the reason is just because you can't really see the texture to the G10. You can feel it. You can't really see it though. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to buff this out. I think that'll give it a really, really classy look. I'm going to use a blue no scratch compound on there in the buffing wheel. And that's just going to give it a really classy look, I think. A lot like an Almar knife, kind of like the Almar Ultralight. Except they polish up the micarta. I'm going to polish up this G10, and this is going to be a really, really classy looking knife. Especially with this CPM Cruwear. I mean, guys, that's why I bought this. It was just like I had to buy it because it's a sprint run. They're not going to be around. Also at $155, killer. And it's cool because they're not moving, which is really awesome because, yeah, it's always a rat race to get some of the cool models in these Spydercos because people will buy like, you know, fucking 5 of them and then go and resell them, which is annoying as shit, but yeah. Awesome knife. If you get the paperwork, it'll explain a little bit about Cruwear. Just take my word for it. You'll love Cruwear. All right, I won't leave you guys hanging. I'll give you guys a quick comparison to like one or two steels on how Cruwear kind of rates. Because a lot of people, they just can't go off other people's word. They at least need some point of reference to understand what they're getting, some way to quantify it, to understand the benefits. And so I'll do that for you guys. We'll go ahead and move this out of the way, get this shit out of here. And let's go ahead and bring some M4 blades over. We'll compare it to M4. M4 is a very popular tool steel that's comparable. And you can see I have a lot of experience with M4. It's not just, magical reading stuff off the spec sheets. I've been using M4 for a long time. I've been sharpening it all kinds of different ways and trying it for a lot of different things, from breaking down boxes and opening packages to bushcraft and things like that, and meat processing, wood processing, all kinds of things. And so M4, as it relates to Cruwear, a lot of people will just go off the spec sheet and see that you have more carbon and more vanadium alloy, as well as some other carbide forming alloys, and say, okay, M4 hands down holds an edge longer than CPM Cruwear. It's just not that fucking simple, though, because it depends on how it's being used and what kind of edge finishes you're choosing, and what you're basically using the knife for. And so by having those carbides in the steel, if you don't know what carbides are, basically when the steel is heat treated, depending on how it's heat treated will determine how many of these carbides are inside this steel matrix. And it's not like a 1-to-1 ratio. The more carbide volume you have, the more it just means it's going to win. It also relates to how hard the blade steel is too. So you need a combination of the two. You can't just have one or the other. That kind of determines how long something is going to be more wear resistant than something else. And so M4 can have more of these carbides, but really they don't really start to shine until you take it and you put an incredibly aggressive toothy edge on there. And what it does is it just means you'll have more edge endurance on M4 than you will CPM Cruwear. At the same time, that's not the ultimate end-all be-all, because at the same time, when you have more of this carbide volume, it reduces the overall toughness, okay? At the same time, it also means that you're probably going to lose some of that edge stability. It's not going to want to hold a super, super fine edge necessarily as long as something else. So the cool thing about CPM Cruwear is what we lose in absolute edge endurance to CPM M4 with a toothy edge. This steel just seems to have a lot higher edge stability. It seems like it wants to hold a polished edge much, much longer. And a lot of people get confused. It doesn't mean it's difficult to polish. You can polish any edge. You can polish any steel. You can polish S110V and all that stuff. But you'll find with Cruwear, it seems to hold that hair shaving sharpness a little bit longer than these steels right here, which makes it really, really enjoyable. Some people argue that's because, it's easier to sharpen. M4 is not difficult to sharpen. M4 takes an aggressive edge. It touches up really, really easy. It's easier to strop, it's easy to hone, all that stuff. So that's not that big of a deal. You'll just find when you put the same quality of edge, same grit finish, this steel seems like it just holds a longer hair shaving edge, hair popping edge, which is enjoyable. Now, it's not much longer, you know what I mean? And I mean, if you're just breaking down boxes all day, you're not going to be like blown away or anything like that, possibly. But if you're an extremely discerning sharpener and knife user, and you have a very, very high level of expectations for what you consider sharp, then Cruwear is going to be really kick-ass. You're really going to enjoy it. At the same time, we're tougher than CPM M4. Now, what's cool about that is, if you're using your knife a lot, you'll just find that if you accidentally do something, this steel is going to be a lot more forgiving. Something like S110V, you hit a staple in a box, you're definitely going to have some edge damage there. It's going to be a lot longer to sharpen out than it is going to be on the CPM Cruwear right here. So this steel is not stainless, but another cool quality about CPM, Cruwear is the fact that we have about 8% of the chromium on there. That's not enough for it to be a stainless blade. You really need about 13, 14%, and it really depends on the relationship and ratio of how much carbon you have in the blade and how it's heat treated that determines how stainless something is, because you need free chromium in the blade. It's not just about how much chromium is in there, but how much free chromium is left over. By no means am I saying that Cruwear is stainless or anything like that. But what I am saying is that Cruwear, how Spyderco's heat treating it, it seems like it's not very reactive. It doesn't seem like it takes hardcore pitting rust or staining. It definitely will. It's not a stainless steel, but it's not like CPM M4 in my experience. M4 is kind of notorious for being quite reactive Not as reactive as something like a Shirogami #1 or 52100, but M4 is definitely a more reactive carbon steel. It is a carbon steel. The chromium that's used inside M4, the 4 or 5%, however much they have in there, it's not used for any kind of corrosion resistance. It's used to increase the hardenability of the steel, which means it's easier for it to get harder with slower quenchants. But then also it's there for carbide formation as well. So that's also what it's used for in Cruwear, but it seems to have a little bit more of an effect as far as how much, staining this steel takes. It doesn't seem to stain as much, which is enjoyable. And it's not just this knife. I mean, I haven't used this knife, so it's like, how do you know all this about Cruwear? In the past, I've actually had a gray G10 version that I sold regrettably. And then also I have the Sprint Run Para 3, and this is one my wife bought me, so it's really cool, really special for me. And so I've really enjoyed Cruwear, and I've used a lot of Cruwear, and it's a really awesome steel. Wear resistance compared to S30V. It gets bunched in. Some people are like, they look at the spec sheet again, going off, how much alloy is inside the steel, and you have more carbon and more alloy inside S30V. And so people will say, well, who cares about Cruwear because it doesn't have as much, edge holding or carbide formation as S30V. The thing about S30V is S30V doesn't have an insanely high amount of edge stability. It really seems like it wants a more toothy edge. And trust me, I always polish my S30V because I like to just do it, and I like to sharpen all the time. But this steel would do a lot better with like a 600 grit, 400 grit edge, and then stropped from there versus polishing it out to 800 to 1000 grit. Man, you're really kind of losing a lot of the ability of a S30V. It's a more aggressive steel. So while it may have more cutting endurance than Cruwear, there's a lot of benefits to Cruwear. It takes a better edge, it sharpens better, it's tougher. It seems like it has, better polished edge performance. And so that's why Cruwear is king, as well as the fact, it's tougher. And so for the Spyderco Shaman, really a cool steel I would like to see is Cruwear. And there's been some talk about it, but some people are like, oh no, there should be LMAX or M390. But if you think about how this knife is made, and we'll get to that in a review about it, with the thickness, how it tapers, the thickness behind the edge, which is close to about 30 thousandths after you sharpen it a few times, Cruwear would definitely be the best performing steel for this kind of knife design. It's more of a heavy-duty knife, and Cruwear is the closest thing you're going to get to 3V with better performance. And so it's a no-brainer, give us Cruwear on a Shaman, but we'll talk about that later. Steels like 10V, we'll get these guys out of the way here real quick. I don't know if we get cut, but steels like 10V, K390, and Maximet, I mean, yeah, these steels right here are going to smoke, Cruwear when it comes to edge holding and wear resistance and stuff like that. But they don't sharpen as fast as Cruwear does, as well as the fact that Cruwear benefits from being a little bit tougher. These steels have more strength, more wear resistance, take more aggressive edges, but Cruwear itself, I mean, it just, God, it's just a good all-around steel. I'm not going to say it's the best steel ever because there's all these kind of cool benefits to all these steels, and it just depends on how you're sharpening them, this and that. We'll have to get into, like, just a real deal steel video where I just give you guys kind of my experience, my anecdotal experience over the past 5 years of using all these different steels, because it's not just these Spydercos, and the reason why Spydercos are so cool is definitely because, they actually try. If they try to put all these steels out, it's very difficult, to get all the heat treats and, process all these steels and keep track of them all. But Spyderco does that for us, and that's why Spyderco is so cool. But yeah, this model and Cruwear, just buy that shit, man. You're going to be really happy. All right, take it easy.